Hey everybody, this is Augie. I am the president here of the board of directors here at Bisexual Queer Alliance Chicago. I am also the co-host of Queer Book Club. We meet once a month with various authors. This video is a special video. We're doing a bi queer health awareness month video, and we have a special guest with us today. And I'm gonna have our lovely co-hostess host, Diva Exit L'Amour, introduce themselves and have them introduce our lovely guest host.
Well, thank you, Augie. My name is Diva Exit L'Amour, and I got my new haircut just for this special occasion. My pronouns are she and they. And before I introduce one of our favorite doctors, Stonewall again has gifted us a stained glass heart of love with a letter that reads, Dear Augie, Hugo, and Diva, thank you for being loved from love and because of love during these times of anti-queer climate with your queer book club. In solidarity, Stonewall again. Today we're sharing queer book club love with one of our favorite doctors, Dr. Justin Terry Smith. Dr. Justin is a writer, author, columnist, veteran, activist, producer, actor, and recently this year, y'all, he was one of the models of a calendar magazine kind of thing. Mr. March, look at that. I talk to him every day, but he doesn't talk to me because he looks the other way. So, Dr. Justin Harry Smith, your turn to talk. Introduce yourself, please, Mr.
Well,
March.
my name is Dr. Justin Terry Smith. I am originally from the Washington, D.C. area. Me and my husband moved to New Mexico not too long ago. And we do have a boyfriend named Joey. And I am like you said, an actor, producer, and life coach. I'm also a therapist and yeah, an all around just good person. At least that's what I like to describe myself as. But I also am doing a lot of projects like recently, so let's get into it.
Well, thank you, Justin, just for coming by and hanging out with us today. We like to ask all of our authors their coming out or welcoming in story, and we all have our different journeys on life, and we're just curious to know how you either initially came out or one of your favorite coming out stories to tell that you've told others.
Okay, I'll try to make a long story short. When I was in high school, I was dating a girl. I believe I was a junior and she was a senior. And then out of nowhere, this sophomore came along, and he, pretty much changed the way that I thought about things. And I started seeing him secretly, but also having the girlfriend openly. And when she went to college, everything seemed to change. I was told that, I identified as bi and I came out as bi, but also on top of that, I got a lot of flack from my straight friends saying, can't you just choose one? And I just don't, I just didn't understand it. I didn't understand why, one, I had to, and I didn't understand why they would pressure me to do that. Then, of course, I decided to hang out in the gay community a little bit more, and they would say things like, bi today, gay tomorrow. You might as well just make the full plunge into the gay pond. And it was so much pressure. I just said, fine, fuck it. I'm just going to identify as gay. And I did for the long time. And then, of course, I met my husband, and there was something, I had to tell my husband about it, about me being bi. And he was like, okay. And, I came out to him early in the relationship to where there was I didn't want any secrets at all. And I had a couple of chances to be with females while with my husband, because my husband allowed me to do that. Gave me space to do that, which was great for me. So I didn't feel a lot of pressure. I didn't feel like he had to be my end all and say all in one person. Like, I'm polyamorous, so I don't believe in that anyway. So when we moved to New Mexico, I began to have other experiences with men and women, and it was just great. It was just like, now I'm kind of very happy and very secure with myself, and um, I don't know, it just seems like I am definitely living my best life.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing that part of your story with us today. You were looking like a hot mess for a second.
Well, I've been a hot mess for more than a second. I'm from the trailer park. Get used to it, okay? You tried bingo bonanza at the Piggly Wiggly.
Well, we love your hot mess self. Did you have any questions for Dr. Justin that you wanted to ask him?
Well, since I've been a part of Dr. Justin's fan club in the Midwest, I don't know what to say. I'm all kind of hot and bothered, more than usual. And I was thinking, what inspired you to write a book?
I think for me it was oh lordy, I think for me it was when I kind of came into my own, like when I found out that I was HIV positive in 2006. I went on medication in 2008, and I didn't see any other African Americans like chronologically in their life living with HIV. You saw coming out stories online, but they weren't really like saying this is what I have to deal with and like making a whole video journal of it. Not a lot of African Americans were doing that because it's a very stigmatized thing within the African American community. So when I started doing it, I would, have journal entries all the time, and then I said, okay, so now that I've done this, what else can I do? I'm always constantly kind of reinventing myself in a certain way, saying, okay, so what else can I do to serve my community? What's the best thing I can do for that right now? Okay, the best thing I could do is educate. How do we educate? We write books. Who reads books? Children. To be able to educate early is to be able to broaden the horizons of adults. So I said to myself, what kind of book could I write? And I said, I'll write a children's book about HIV, because I felt as though a lot of the times children aren't educated on HIV because nobody wants, there's still a stigma to actually explaining what it is, because it has such a bad stigma to it, to people that are infected with HIV. It has such a, oh my God, this person did something bad, so this was their punishment. So if we tell our children not to think that way, if we start early in education, then that will definitely decrease the stigma of people living with HIV. So I decided to write the children's book, I Have a Secret.
Well, I think that's wonderful. I remember when I volunteered on the AIDS floor and the nurse's bell kept ringing and the echoes and nobody wanted to catch it. I'm like, people are people. It's just a part of somebody. So I could just imagine living with it. Just, I even be more radical if I was. Could you share part of the book that you wrote?
So this is the book, I Have a Secret. It's the second edition. The first edition sold out, which was amazing. So this is the second edition. Okay, I can read maybe 1 or 2 pages. Do you want? Okay. Hi, my name is Jay, and I have a secret. I start school in the fall, and I'll be in 6th grade. One day, my dad said we would have to move into another city, and I would have to go to a different school. I didn't know what to do. I was so scared and excited all at the same time. When moving day came, my dad helped me pack all my things. He then sat me down with a concerned look on his face and said, Jay, you have to know I love you, and I just want you to be safe. This is the illustration of Jay here. I know, Dad. What's wrong? I replied. Nothing, son. It's just that the kids at the new school might not know about your secret. They may not have all the information about it. I know, Dad. It'll be our little secret. When school began, I made friends with my very first day. I met 2 boys, Charles and Bobby. Charles, Bobby, and I had recess, gym, band, and health together. We often had secrets together that we wouldn't tell a soul. So that's Jay, Charles, and Bobby. So this is the last page that I read. After my first day at school, I talked with my dad and asked, Dad, why do I have to keep my secret? Because I have to keep you safe, he exclaimed. There are people out there that will want to hurt you if they found out your secret. They might not let you go to school with them. Or worse, they may not want to be your friend anymore. But Dad, it's my choice, I said. No, it's not. That's my final answer. You will not tell anyone. Now go to your room. And that's Jay in his room crying. So I will leave the rest to your readers if they want to definitely purchase the book and read the rest.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Diva, did you have any other questions for our lovely host or guest?
I know the hair throws me off too. You have a other book that I heard, Just in Time, and a friend of mine has read part of that to me once, and I was like, that's pretty impressive. Can you read a little bit about that book?
This is the book Just in Time. Now, this book is a different kind of book. This is a compilation of, I used to write for A&U Magazine, Arts and Understanding, which is an HIV and AIDS book, and I used to write an advice column. And this is 7 years of advice column, basically. So just find a question here. So this entry was from February 2016 for the Just in Time advice column for A&U Magazine. Justin, we have been friends on Facebook for a while, and we met as fellow members of the leather community when you were Mr. Maryland Leather 2010. However, I would appreciate it if you keep my identity secret, seeing as how we're both well known in the leather community. Well, I noticed that there's a spike in syphilis cases among gay men, especially in the leather community. Do you think that has anything to do with PrEP, pre-exposure prophylaxis? My next question is about post-exposure prophylaxis, or PEP. In your opinion, do you think that PEP gives people permission to have sex with others and then go get the pill the next morning? So that was definitely a heavy thing to write about. And I literally probably wrote a good page and a half on it. So I'll just read one paragraph that I said to him. I don't think we should stigmatize people because they choose to use PrEP or PEP. Let me first describe to my readers what PEP is and then what PrEP is. So then I go into saying that, PEP is an anti-HIV drug that should be taken as soon as someone thinks that they've been exposed to HIV. PrEP is a once-a-day medication taken, or prophylaxis taken specifically to prevent HIV, which, yes. And then I go into, at the end, realize that this is 2016. So also let me say that there is no study that says that there is an increase of syphilis in the leather community, but let me say this, the early AIDS epidemic started right after the beginning of the sexual revolution for the gay community. People do not understand that this is one of the reasons why our community is such a big problem with HIV and AIDS. We were asked to suddenly adapt our freedom to the new situation, and we were also increasingly stigmatized. We had to fight for our lives. Former President Ronald Reagan did not even say the word AIDS in public speech until thousands of people had already died. Also, being gay in the 80s was not easy because we so looked down upon. Nobody gave a flying fuck about our community, especially us and our allies, except us and our allies. We went through years and years of burning friends every week. I was born in 1979, so I never did see the tragedy of the early AIDS epidemic, but my friends, especially my friends who are gay and men who have sex with men of color, or men of color who have sex with men, are still dying.
Wow, I'm grateful that I am Team Dr. Justin in the Midwest, and I'm grateful that you are you. Thank you for today. And Auggie, do you have any questions?
Yes, I definitely do. And I just wanted to thank you for sharing that. I could only imagine just all the different types of questions you would get and how loaded they were. That one was definitely loaded, but definitely thank you for that. And thank you for just sharing that advice column. I know, being living with HIV yourself, and being a survivor, and then also a person of color, being of African American descent, what was it like for you to divulge this to your primary care provider or providers? And what type of stigmas or obstacles or barriers that you had to come through as a survivor just to get the type of care that you needed, specifically just to treat HIV?
Well, I will say this: when I was infected, they decided not to put me on medication and for another 3 years because my body was dealing with it, I guess, well enough at that point in time. You have to understand that this was back in 2006. So now when they find out that somebody is infected with HIV, they actually put them on medication immediately. So back then they did not do that. I told my doctor, I said, hey, so I know that, I told you I have somebody I'm seeing right now who's a guy, but I also do have an interest in females too, sexually. And, I need to know like certain things. And so basically he treated me as if I had no interest in females. He just said, yeah, whatever. And he just said, basically, I believe it's called bi erasure. And I didn't really get to have those kind of conversations with my doctor. And then also at that time it was condoms, 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 condoms. So that's all I had. The whole thing about trying to be, I think that for me, it's because the gay community dealt with HIV, it's in such a way that having sex with men for me was a lot easier than actually having sex with females, because I would be open about what I had. I had no problem with being open about having HIV. But the thing is, when I was open with male partners, it was like, they were like, oh, okay. Like sometimes I got rejected, but most of the time it was like, okay, so let's protect ourselves. Let's have a conversation about it. With females, there was no conversation. It was no. It was like there was nothing I could do. It was like no. So that was kind of like the stigma that I faced. It was basically within the healthcare system and also on the outside of trying to find a partner, as you will. So it was kind of like, okay, so I faced stigma with having interpersonal relationships, and also within the healthcare system, which was which I will say was hard, because I don't know, people. It's a lot of times it was just like, no, there was no. Not a lot of people were educated on it, and I realized that now that I'm in a different part of the country, not a lot of people here are educated on it either. So it's like almost like when I lived in the DC area, yeah, education was pretty much like, people knew, and people became, it's like as time went on, people became more educated on it. And then when I moved to New Mexico, it was a lot of times they wouldn't read profiles or say, oh, you have HIV. I'm like, yeah. Oh, I didn't see that. I'm like, yeah. And of course I'm like, so yeah, it's better if we just don't. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. All right, no problem. And it doesn't hurt my feelings anymore. I just pretty much look at them like, that's fine. and then when they say, I'm so sorry, I'm like, there's no need to apologize. I have enough pride in myself to be able to walk away from you and not really feel as though that I need to prove anything for you or to you. There's nothing I need to prove anything to anyone but myself. So honestly, my inner strength is like, screw you, dude. I don't really give a shit. Sorry. I mean, keep your apology. I don't really need it.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Mhm.
Compared to them back in 06 when you were first diagnosed, to now, not just area specific where you're at in New Mexico, but have you noticed a change with people and how they relate to HIV survivors? Is there still that stigmatization that you've noticed in your own circles when it comes
Mhm,
to pretty much exposing, hey, I live with HIV, or worst comes to worst, AIDS. Uh,
mhm.
and are people still isolated that you've heard within your stories, within your own research? Um, how how have you pretty much managed to navigate that currently in our current times?
I'll say easily. But then I'll elaborate. I have a kind of like a no nonsense kind of attitude. So my thing is like when someone says something along the lines of, "Well, he's a chick." Like I remember when I was gonna hook up with a guy, and beautiful man, really nice, and I was like, "Yeah, awesome." One of my friends went on the same application that I was on, told the guy that, "Hey, just to let you know, he has HIV. You know that? It's in my profile. It's in my profile." So I've already had that discussion usually before we even, I mean, I always have that discussion before I even think about meeting up with anyone. So I went to my friend and I said, "So I heard that you told so and so that I had HIV. Why would you do that? What is your problem?" "No, I didn't." Okay, let me see. I have my receipts here because he sent me a screenshot of the whole conversation. And yes, you did. And so when I did that, he of course became apologetic. And I said, "That's still not even answering the question. Why would you do that?" And then he said, "Well, I don't know. I'm like, you know what? It doesn't matter why as of right now. We're not friends anymore." So for me, it's like I have enough pride in myself to kind of when someone does something like that to me, it doesn't really bother me because I just do this and I keep moving forward. So for me, it's kind of like I still face those things, this things like being blocked on certain applications by females and males, and not really kind of like saying, "Okay, next." Like kind of like it's like I, I I realize I just have enough, I guess, I don't know what to say, chutzpah to say, "Fuck you, I don't give a shit, I'm out. And I don't need you to apologize to me. Stick the apology up your ass."
Well, at least you're being true to yourself and true with others, so we appreciate that. And I have another question.
Sure.
Um, what is some advice you would be giving to somebody who was either recently diagnosed with HIV, how they should go about it with their loved ones or their partners? What are some preventative steps for them to prevent from their loved ones to get it, such as PrEP, or
Mhm,
condoms?
mhm.
I'm just curious to know what kind of advice you would give to that person and their loved
Mhm.
ones.
So I can tell you this. I can actually go back into my coming out of the HIV closet story. So I told a cousin of mine, and I told her because I thought that she would be someone that I could trust. Someone that I could trust with, like, am I see it's somebody I can at least talk to about issues because we also belong to the same LGBTQ community. So then to this day, she denies it. And I just don't understand why, because I can't stand liars. And so I'm just like, you know what, I love you. I don't like you right now. I might like you in the future, but I know not to trust you anymore. So she went ahead and told her mother, who told my mother. And I got a phone call, and it was my mother crying, and with my brother crying, and I'm just like, what is going? Like, who died? Like, it's like, what happened? What's going on? And they said, "Justin, we heard you had AIDS," and I said, "No, I don't have AIDS. Technically, I was telling the truth." And so then, you know, uh, because I could hear my mother crying in the background, and my brother was like, it's like, Justin, don't lie to me. And I said, I'm not lying to you. And he said, I said, he goes, do you have HIV? And I was like, fuck, okay. He said HIV, so now I gotta tell the truth. So I said, yes, I do. And I told them, I told my family, I said, just put me on speakerphone, let me talk to everybody. I said, I need you to stop crying right now, because tears aren't gonna fix this. I'm the kind of person that's like, I guess for me, it's like, tears aren't a waste of time. Like, I understand emotions. Everybody has emotions. We're all human, right? But if you're crying for me, you can just forget it. I don't need your tears. I need your strength. There are strength in tears, true. But for me, if you want to know how to support me in this moment, you need to stop crying. So after I told them that, they literally have been like, my mom and my brother definitely been like two of the strongest people in my corner about my mother, actually, I was on the board of Women Walker Clinic, which was the largest HIV clinic in the DC area, and she gives the money. She's like, she's definitely a supporter. My brother supported every HIV project I've been in. They're just really good people, and I'm happy to have them in my corner in whatever I do. So when it comes to somebody who's been diagnosed recently, I say, be strong, get educated on everything that you can, listen to your doctor, talk to your partners. I find that for me, at least, to get through the bullshit is to be honest. To me, it's like, get through the bullshit, meaning, meaning think of the dating pool as a pile of shit, and there's a diamond in there somewhere. So to get through all the bullshit, you have to be honest, and then you'll find your diamond. Because why would you want to end up with shit or in shit without the diamond? Because when you sit in shit for the longest time, what happens? You don't even know that you're sitting in it, because your nose has become so adjusted to smelling shit, you think that it's normal, and it's not. Find the diamond, get out of your own bullshit, and that's my advice.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing that advice. I know
Mhm.
it might have been isolating for you at first when you first came to terms with your diagnosis. So to share that support and advice with others is great, because they know that they're not dealing with this on their own, that there's others like themselves dealing with this diagnosis, and knowing that, there's treatments out there, and that,
Mhm.
yes, you're going to have to break through the barriers with your healthcare providers, but you need to talk to them. So thank you for your continued work as well on that research, as well with all the different articles that people can check out there.
No problem.
This leads me to my next question.
Mhm.
Next question.
Mhm.
You served in the military, and thank you for serving in the military. Being a African American man and also a bi or queer individual, how was that experience? And then also that experience later on would lead you to being in a film called Serve with Pride, a
Mhm.
documentary about uh, the LGBTQ members of our military. How did that lead to that, along with just your overall experience within the military, especially with the whole don't ask, don't tell policy that we had back in the 90s when you were
Mhm.
in the 90s?
Well, let me say this, that it's definitely an interesting intersection of being Black and being LGBTQ in the military. I remember, of course, under Don't Ask, Don't Tell, nobody would ask me, and I didn't tell. And even in basic training, even if you knew or suspected that I belonged to the LGBTQ community, you weren't allowed to ask me, and I wasn't allowed to tell you. However, in basic training, I remember when in the military, when I first heard the N word, it was in basic training. It was the first experience that you get when you join the military. I heard the N word as I was in the bathroom in a stall, and there's a stall next to me, and I kind of was already in there doing my business, and there's another guy in the stall doing his business, And he said, "Who is that?" And I kind of knew who it was because of the Southern twang. Like in our troop, I knew who it was. And I said, "It's Airman Smith." Like I was with whatever, Trainee Smith, excuse me. And he said, "You stink," and he used the N-word. And I was like, "What did you say?" And he said, "Oh," and I said, "Did you just call me?" And I literally, because I literally was like, "You know what? Let me get done my business." I was like about to get up, and he quickly got up and left. And of course, I couldn't get up and chase him. But like as soon as I got up, I looked at him, and I mean, the fact is that in the military, unless you have actual eyewitness proof or something written down or another witness, your chances of winning any case are zero. So for me, I said, I know who it was. The Southern twang gave it away. I know who it was. I looked him dead in the eye, and he was like, Trainee Smith, are you okay? And I'm like, "Oh, I'm fine." Like it's like pretty much like, pretty much all I could do was give him attitude, but to let him know that I knew it was him. And at the end of the basic training, he was like, "I just wanted to let you know that it was a pleasure serving with you, Airman Smith." I said, "Thank you for your apology, but if you're a fake ass apology, but you can take it up your ass. I don't really care." And he was like, "I'm sorry." And I'm like, "There's no need to apologize. I don't care." Because I was at the point where sorry, you just called me the N-word. I don't really care what you have to say after that. So being Black in the military was definitely had those kinds of those kinds of reactions. And a lot of the times the racism was very subtle and you wouldn't really see it. And it was hard. But being queer or being LGBTQ in the military, I will say that there were good times and there were bad times. I had a girlfriend, she was bisexual as well. That was great, And then I also had a boyfriend at the time who they were friends, and everybody knew everybody was okay, right? With each other, everybody was fine. I just never double booked, except for one time, but that's another story. So I basically, it was just there were some struggles there, of course, because I couldn't. Whenever I had a same-sex relationship, or whenever I had a same-sex relation, I could not be public about it because it was under "Don't Ask, Don't Tell." I was in an abusive relationship at one point when living in Dover, Delaware, and the guy would, be able to be on base at the same time I was on base because he was also in the military. He would actually take Polaroids of me and leave them on my car, saying, "I know I love watching you go scurry off to work. You look so cute in your uniform," blah, blah. I mean, it was just, it became a little obsessive, of course. And then I left a note on my car for him. And I said, "If you ever come near me again, I'm going to take out my M9 and put a hole in your head." Because I just got tired. He left me alone at one point. At that point, he actually left me alone forever. Then I met another guy that I started dating, and he went AWOL. Nobody knew where he was. I got called into the office saying, "Airman Smith, I need to talk to you about Airman Green." I said, "Okay." He said, "Airman Green is missing." I said, "Oh, okay." And of course, I tried to keep my composure as if I didn't know Airman Green. And it was very interesting. The sergeant said, "We've heard that you two are friends." And it was very obvious by the way that he said friends that he knew we were more than just that. And so then he said, "I need you to tell me where he is." And I said, "Okay." And I said, we're friends." And then the sergeant says, "Okay, yes, you're friends." I said, "Okay, that's established." "Yes, sir." "Okay, great." So he actually wanted me to go with him. The plan was he wanted me to go with him, to go AWOL with him in Virginia. And I did not. He got really upset with me. He threatened me. And he went to Virginia anyway. and they found him in Virginia Beach with a knife and a gun in his car with a note to someone. And the note was to me, but you know, that was it. So he was taken to an institution where he could get the help that he needed, and he was discharged. So it had its ups and downs. Definitely didn't like the fact that I had to be quiet about who I was. Then in the military, of course, I was past that, and I decided to go out in DC and have fun, like, you know, have a drink with a friend of mine, and the friend ended up raping me. And of course, I was, you know, I went through PTSD. I was waking up late. I got an Article 15, 16 for being late, moodiness. I told off my supervisor. I was pretty much branded as a bad airman, only because the experience that I had pushed me into having PTSD. So therefore, I couldn't be open about why I got PTSD. Because if I said, hey, I got raped by a guy, the investigation would have said, oh, where did you meet him? Oh, I met him at an LGBTQ club. What were you doing in the club? You know, you're not supposed to be there. So I decided I couldn't, I just held it in for the longest time. Didn't tell anyone in the military at all. 20 years later, I was checking my email, and I got this email from a friend of mine, Aaron Terry. He said, hey, we're doing this film called Serve with Pride. And I said, oh, what's this about? He said, this is about LGBTQ veterans that served under a Dundas hotel. And I said, oh, well, that's me. So what do they want to do? Well, they want to film you and interview you and ask you some questions. Done that before, we're here doing it now, so sure. So when I told my story being filmed, a friend of mine, John Harris, was like, I didn't know you were disabled. I said, yeah, I have 10% disability. He said, 10%? After what the story you just told me? You should have like 90 to 100% disability because of the PTSD that you went through. Did you report that? And I said, no. And he said, did you tell the psychologist at least? And I said, yes. And he said, is there a record in your military service that says that you told the psychiatrist this? And I said, I don't know. He said, did you look in your military medical record? I said, I don't know. And then he said, okay, we're going to send you to the Disabled American Veterans Association. And I said, who are they? He said, don't worry, they'll help you. So I got there. I met a guy named Brett in New Mexico. I was living here. And he said, okay, I need you to get paperwork. So I had to track down a 20-year-old police record, which was almost impossible. Track down a 20-year-old rape kit, track down my friend who 20 years ago was there to go ahead and go over the events in his head of picking me up at the police station and then sending me to Howard University Hospital for a rape kit. I had to find it in my military medical record, which I did. I found it, and it says, suffers from PTSD after being assaulted by a knife, at knife point and raped by a male, blah, 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 blah. So I did that in March of last year, 2022. And on my birthday, December 27th, the military made a decision. They said, we're going to give you 90% disability because of what you went through 20 years ago. So I am now a 90% disabled veteran with the United States military because of that film, Serve with Pride, because those people went through the same kind of things that I did. And those people said, this is what you should be doing. This is what probably should have done 20 years ago, but now let's just help you get through. And I did. And then the kicker was, a week after the military granted me, on my birthday, December 27th, they granted me 90% disability. A week later, my rapist was found dead at what's called the White House Ellipse, which is where the Christmas tree is lit every year for the White House. He was beaten to death with a lead pipe. So for me, all I could say is, do I feel bad for my rapist? No. Do I feel good about what happened? No. Am I indifferent? For sure. Um, I mean, I definitely have my feelings about it, but all I know is that he's in a place where he can't hurt anyone else. And I did a video blog about it on my YouTube page. And after I posted that video on my Facebook, on my other social media sites, 5 people that I already knew in DC came to me and said that he did the same thing to them. So for me, while in the military, it was hard. But life is hard. Life is never easy. It comes with lessons. May they be easy lessons or hard lessons. They're lessons, period. The one thing is that you have to do is persevere and stay strong and survive. And that's what I did.
Thank you, everybody who, after seeing that trigger warning and the video, we're back discussing some other topics with Justin. So my next question, it's a bit loaded. You're
Not like the last one.
no, I'm switching things up just to make it a bit lighter after what we just experienced.
Okay.
You're African American, Black
Mhm.
folks, if they want to use that term,
Mhm.
or also Jewish.
Mhm.
You're bisexual,
Mhm.
and you're involved with the kink and leather community, but
Mhm.
you're also polyamorous.
Yes.
There's a lot of bi folks out there that are also polyamorous. What does it mean to be bi and poly for you? And how did you navigate that with your current partner and other partners? I know that that might be a struggle for other poly folks out there, so I just wanted to shed some light on that. So you have the floor.
Thank you. So I will say it was interesting. I was just going to buy a group like maybe a couple of weeks ago, and I'm a part of several by virtual groups, and one member said, polyamory, like that. There's way more breakups than I've read somewhere. There's way more breakups than monogamous couples, and I kind of was, of course, I was in this group, and I'm like, where did you read that? Of course, the person didn't know where they found it or read it. And I was kind of like, you don't have any scholarly articles or any studies that show you that are actually legitimate. I kind of don't necessarily believe it. So my thing is being bi and being poly, you're gonna face some kinds of thinking wherever you go. And it's how you navigate or deal with it is the most important part. So for me, it's like I'm polyamorous. I have a husband. I have a boyfriend, and there's different kinds of polyamorous relationships. Like there's the V, right? There's this one person here that are connected to these 2 people here, right? There's the triad, which are everyone's connected. There's 4. I've seen polycules and like just like people that have been in relationships that have like 7 partners. I don't have the energy for that. I can't. Like that's a lot of energy. I'm like, wow, you have 7 partners. How do you do that? But also being bisexual, I understand, of course, my husband and our boyfriend are gay, right? They identify as gay, but they give me that space to be able to see a female sexually or have a sexual partner that is probably going to be a permanent sexual partner, or maybe like something like, she's not my girlfriend. She's not somebody I want to see. I don't want to be in a relationship with her when it comes to romantic relationship, but maybe just a sexual relationship, which is okay. That is okay in my space, in the way that I live my life. However, I know that there are other people that struggle with that because a lot of the times, they've come into this monogamous relationship with the opposite sex partner, and the opposite sex partner is like, no, I can't allow you to do this. I can't allow you to be with a woman, period. Like, I understand you have to go through this, but you can't do this. And so a lot of times, if the person who identifies as bisexual is okay with that, then that's okay. However, if you feel as though you need this experience and this person is not letting you, that's going to cause detriment mentally within the bisexual person's psyche, because honestly, it's like, I want to be with this person or this gender, and I can't because my partner will not let me. So if you really think about it, if you really that could be looked at as a form of abuse, because you're actually telling someone that they can't do something, and you're not necessarily putting boundaries on them, but you're also saying, I'm restricting you. So it's all about, I find relationships to be all about compromise. And some people will, I guarantee you some of your watchers are going to disagree with what I have to say. But I mean, I think because of my relationships and how they work, um, I feel as though that I can say this. My husband and I have been together for 17 years. And yes, and it's wonderful. And it's like, wow, 17 years together. It's oh, you don't want to listen to me? Okay. Yeah. Like, I mean, I guess I shouldn't speak on that. But it's kind of like, for us, this is what works. And a lot of times people do not agree with it. I have a friend of mine who we're still kind of friends. We don't really talk as much as we do anymore, but we're still friends. I remember I told him I'm poly. That's just an excuse to cheat. And I said, so cheating is when, so I told him, I said, define cheating to me. And he said, well, when you go step out on your partner with another person. So does the person know that you're going to step out from them to see another person? No. I'm like, so then it isn't cheating then, because my husband knows. And plus me and my husband do it together. So it's kind of like we date the same person, especially if they're the same sex as my husband, we date the same person. So because I'm bi and he's not. So how is that cheating? And then so I said, and this is of course I kind of threw a little shade his way. I said, for somebody who can't hold on to a relationship for more than a year, you're going to tell me that what I'm doing is wrong. But you seem to be reading from the same book you've always read from, and you're getting the same result. How about you put away that book of being an asshole and get another book of just being an open-minded monogamous person? You don't have to change, and I'm not telling you to change the way that you work your relationships or the way that you want your relationships as being monogamous. I'm telling you to stop being a dick. So he and I stopped talking for a minute, which I expected. So now, after I think, I've been with my husband for 17 years. My friend finally found his person, and I think they've been together for 2 years, and so they're getting married. So I'm very happy for him. So that's great. But it's kind of like, okay, I think that's awesome. Polyamorous people are not more open-minded. I mean, not more evolved than monogamous people. It's not, I don't think that we say that about ourselves. We simply say that this is the way that we choose to love. And honestly, if you don't agree with it, that's fine. You don't have to agree with it, but respect that, because we respect yours. So I remember when a relative came into my home and said, well, it needs a woman's touch. And I said, I told the relative, I said, there's 2 men who live here. I mean, I said I'm bisexual, but I'm telling you that I don't want to be in a romantic relationship with a woman. I just want a different kind of relationship. And she said, oh, well, I'm just saying. And I said, well, I'm just saying that it's probably not a good thing to say to a same-sex couple when you walk into their home. It's all about realizing that your privilege of heterosexual normativity, bringing that into a bisexual space or a queer space or a gay space or whatever, you need to watch kind of like a little bit of what you say, because you're going to be insulting that person that you supposedly love. So that being said, I pretty much say this: that being bisexual and being poly is hard, but also you have to define it for yourself. Don't let others define it for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. This leads me to my last question. We always ask our guest authors any future projects that they're excited about doing or are part of. So is there any future projects that you're currently working on or in the process of working on that you'd like to share with the audience?
Sure. So the documentary that I'm a part of, like we mentioned before, is called Serve with Pride. It actually is going to be out this year. So I, of course, kind of tell my story about being in the military, but there's also other people within the LGBTQ community that share their stories. And it'll be out this year. And then also I literally yesterday got told that I will be a part of a project called A Wonderful Life. It's an LGBTQ um, Christmas movie. And so I believe it's kind of like I'm going to be filming in Utah, which is not far from me. So I'm kind of happy about it. I was happy to get it 3 pages of dialogue. So I'm like, yes. So this is really, really good for me. And I am up for a role. We'll see if I get it. I'm not sure because I find out this week and I really wish I really like crossing my fingers. It's for an LGBTQ short. And if I do get it, it'll be my first lead role. So we'll see about that. But who knows? I mean, crossing fingers, crossing toes, all that. We'll see if I get it. But those are what things that I'm working on right now: Serve with Pride and A Wonderful Life.
I have a question, okay?
Yeah,
With all your projects in the future, to give you good luck, could I kiss you on the forehead in your calendar?
sure.
Oh,
Yes. Yes, definitely.
No, chef.
Aw, thank you.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Just being very vulnerable with your own story, with all the different experiences and facets within your own life, whether it was serving in the military and
Mhm.
everything that's gone, since then, and you dealing with your own PTSD, you being a HIV survivor and still living to tell about it and giving others advice. And then, of course, our lovely hostess, Diva, for being here. Thank you all, whoever's watching this. I'm going to go ahead and drop in the description. Justin has his own YouTube channel, so he would definitely love of you subscribing to this channel. So I'll drop that in there. I'll drop in his website if you want to contact him on all the different things he has going on. And if you haven't already, definitely drop a like on this video, drop a comment if there was anything about Justin's story that has touched your own life. And if you haven't, definitely consider subscribing to our channel. And we'll see you in the next video. And you could check out one of our other videos at the end card screen on this. So without further ado, thank you so much for watching, everybody. Until next time, peace.